It is football across Minnesota time. Michael Rand here. Chip Scoggins joins me. Chip writes the Football Across Minnesota feature every week. And this week, Chip, you tell me there is six-man football in Texas. Tell me more about this story.
Yeah, I was not aware of this until I learned about Demarion Brown, a freshman at Gustavus, who is a running back. And his first college game, he didn't play in the opener, but they took him to UW Stevens Point for their second game. And they had injuries at running back, so they put him in there, and he promptly rushes for 228 yards and 3 touchdowns, the most by a Gustavus player since 2013. He got put on the D3 football team, which is a national honor for Division III. So it's your first game playing, you get this national honor, which is great. Until it's even more impressive when you learn that he's used to going against guys half the number of players on the field. He played six-man football in Kilgore, and I was not familiar with, didn't know there's a such thing. Well, obviously, we have 9-man football here in Minnesota, but in Texas, for their small schools, they have 6-man football, and he played that from Demarion played that from middle school on. When he was 9 or 10, he tried 11-man football briefly and didn't like it, so he played baseball. But so he played 6-man, and so I did some digging on 6-man football and talked to some people down in Texas.
Yeah,
he once scored 15 touchdowns in a game. The scores are like 89.
So do you play on the same size field? Like, who's eligible?
No.
How many eligibles can you have? Okay, explain this.
So the field is 80 yards long.
Okay.
And 40 yards wide.
Okay.
And there's different rules with 6-man, and the most teams have different kinds of formations. The most common one, my understanding, is they'll have a center.
Mm-hmm.
They'll have 2 wide receivers split out wide on each side. They'll have a quarterback and 2 running backs.
Okay.
Everybody's eligible, even the center. And they have a thing called 2-touch, where you can't just snap it to the quarterback and he runs. It has to touch. 2 people have to, 2 exchanges. They have to exchange it twice. So typically what they do is they might direct snap it to one of the running backs, and he'll pitch it to the quarterback, and then everybody goes out, or he'll pitch it to the quarterback and run. Demarion played a position they called a spread back, where he was kind of out wide, and the quarterback would take the exchange and either toss it to him, lateral it to him, throw it to him. So he touched the ball a lot. He was a 2-way player. So he had a game where he scored 10 rushing touchdowns. He had 2 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions for return for touchdowns, and a kickoff return for a touchdown.
Oh my gosh.
Which I contacted the governing body for high school sports down there, and they only recognize state records if they happen in championship games in playoffs.
Oh, okay.
But so 9 rushing touchdowns is in the playoffs. That's the record. So
jeez,
if that had happened in a playoff game, he would have held the state records. But yeah, 10 rushing touchdowns. And he said, when he came here, fall camp was obviously a pretty big adjustment, because there's twice as many guys trying to tackle him.
Guys on the field, yeah.
And he said, it's weird to see a guard or tackle pull the direction you're going, because he's just not used to it. So he said he really had to learn to slow down and be patient and allow things to happen, because in 6-man, everything's so fast. There's wide open spaces. You basically make one guy's miss and you're going to a touchdown, right?
Oh, it sounds like a pickup game. It sounds like the football used to play, like the either tackle or 2-hand touch. It's like, you get however many people you have, divide them up, and that's how you're going to play. You usually don't get 11 on 11 when you're playing pickup, but you get like somewhere between 4 and 6 people on a team, and then you just go. It kind of sounds like that.
That's it, yeah. And I asked Peter Haugen, Gustavus coach, like how they find him, and there's a little secret sauce into the recruiting. The 6-man that they weren't divulged, but this is the second 6-man player. They had a receiver named Matthew Carrion, excuse me, who played there. He graduated last year, and he was their second most productive receiver last season. He was from Houston, and he played 6-man, so they have some familiarity with it. But Peter said they look for, when he was evaluating on film, he was looking at athleticism, ball security, the things that you would ordinarily look for. It's just hard to, you're just not seeing it in 11-man football. And Demarion said, obviously not. He was one of the few teams in East Texas that play 6-man. They used to have to travel 90 minutes, 2 hours, sometimes longer to get the games. So he was either going to join the Texas National Guard or go to trade school. and then got contacted by the assistant coach at Gustavus, and that started the kind of the recruitment. And he said, "Yeah, sure, I'll give this a try." And he followed that up the next week. He had 114 yards and 3 touchdowns against Augsburg, so he leads the team in touchdown runs with 6, and he's missed the last 2 games because he's dealing with turf toe, but really just a incredible find for Gustavus and adjustment by this young man to assimilate to 11-man football after just playing 6-man for 6 years of his life.
Super cool story. Be sure to read that on StarTribune.com. Really quick, Chip, before we go. Game balls. I assume you're not giving a game ball to the WNBA officials, but who else?
They will not get game balls for sure. Game balls. Number 1, Jack Strand, MSU Moorhead quarterback, 35 of 55 for 357 yards and 5 touchdowns, including one with 19 seconds left.
Wow.
That gave them a victory over Concordia St. Paul. And then how about Kayvon Johnson from Armstrong? Just an unbelievable year for him. Rushing. He had 34 carries, 309 yards, and 5 touchdowns.
Jeez.
In a double overtime 1-point win against Andover.
Ooh,
and Kayvon has 29 touchdowns on the season. He's averaging 9.6 yards per carry. So just
almost a first down every time he runs the ball. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And then finally, Zach Ryland from Kingsland. He had 17 carries, 366 yards, and 5 touchdowns. And he also caught a 45-yard touchdown pass in a win over Houston. So congratulations to all 3 of those guys. Just terrific performances.
I want to hear more about 6-man next week, but that's good, Chip. Thanks, man. We'll take care.
All right, brother.